Hi boys and girls, I'm Rosemary, and today I'm going to paint this little snowman along with you for those of you who picked up the kits at the library. And your kits contained a couple of brushes, all the paints, the snow, and whatever you need to finish the piece. Now what we do is we start out by painting the white on the snowman. And I've said this before, but for those of you who haven't followed some of my previous videos, we have to paint the white part of the snowman in the white paint, because if you don't, it will be porous and it'll get very dirty. Also, it's a difference in color, so as I'm going to show you. So you put a little bit of paint in your brush, not a lot, and you put it on. Now look at the difference in the color of the white versus the white of the bisque. This is called bisque, and it's porous, it absorbs, so you don't want it to absorb dirt and moisture. So, but now you want to make sure that you pull your colors out as far as they go before you dip again. Okay, now really I usually tell people to start with the bottoms. I do the bottom of everything. Bottoms should always be finished. It's part of the piece, and it looks so much neater if the bottom is done too. So I usually hold it in my hand and start with the bottom. Okay, nice and smooth. Put it on nice and smooth. Okay, all right, so I have the bottom on. So now I'm going to continue with the top part. Now, if some of it gets on areas that you don't want, don't worry about it. You'll be able to go over it. Sometimes it takes a couple of coats to cover when you go out of the lines, but the one thing you have to know is not to try to paint over a wet color. You have to make sure that your color is dry before you try to go and paint, and fix it and paint another color over it. Okay, now where the snow is going to go, I gave you those little jars, those little screw top jars of snow. I put them in saran wrap so that they wouldn't dry out. I hope they were all good. But I want you to paint the white. If you're going to do white cuffs and the white trim on the hat, like I did, here and here and here on the cuffs, okay? I want you to paint that white also, because snow should not go on to just the bisque, because you really don't get good coverage with the snow. It's a thick product, and you might have areas that are missed. So I always put a coat of the white acrylic, which is this paint that you have there, underneath it first. Okay, so we're going to do, now you have two brushes, so you can use the big square brush to do most of it, and then you can use the smaller pointier brush to fill in where you can't get with the bigger brush. Okay, I'll get one nice coat on there. You should have plenty of paint. It goes very far. Spread it out. If you don't have enough paint, it means you're putting it on too heavy. So really spread it out, pull it out as far as it'll go. A little bit more there. Okay, nice and smooth, like I said. We're going to get this part on, and then the part around his face, and then the cuffs. You could use the smaller brush to do the cuffs so you don't get it up on the gloves and the scarf, and whatever you're comfortable with, you do. And you don't have to work as fast as I do. I work fast because I don't want you to have to just sit here and watch me do this. You can pause the video and you could put it back on again. That's the one advantage of painting at home. I mean, I do miss all of you, seeing you all in the libraries, but at least now you have the paints and you can, do a little bit of it, go back to it another day. All right, and then I'm going to paint this part of the trim of the hat, because I'm going to leave that with the snow. Now, you can also paint that in a color. If you see the top of the hat, I did it in a very dark green, and I put the snow on top of it. So you could do the trim in a dark green and put the snow on top of it also. Then you don't need the white underneath it. It's only if you're just leaving it white, then you put the white acrylic underneath it. Okay, follow that around. Now, it doesn't have to be done in these colors. I also gave you purple and blue, so I think I'm going to do this guy in the other colors, the opposite of what I have there. That's kind of holiday looking, and I want to do this one a little bit differently. Just have to do the cuffs. Okay, now wash your brush, swish it in the water. I didn't get myself a paper towel. Let me just grab a towel here. Use a napkin that I have, but you should always have a paper towel handy, and I put that in the supplies needed instructions, okay? So always swish it, wipe it out, and then when you go to the sink, you should wash it with soap. Grab the tips of the hairs and wiggle the soap into the ferrule of the brush, and hopefully you won't get it all thick in there if you get it out of it right away. Now I'm going to take the little brush, and I'm going to do the orange. I'm going to work out of the cap, but you have the little pod, and now very, very little on the point of the brush, because you have just a little area to put that orange, and if you put too much on it, where are you going to spread it to? Then it's going to be all over the place. It's going to mess up, his body and his scarf. So little bit, little bit, little bit. Put it on, pull it out. Okay. All right, and you can take your time. Don't rush like I'm doing it. Just take your time and be neat. Okay, so the orange is done. Now we're going to go to the colors. Now I think I'm going to do this one. I gave you green, a different green, because this green I don't have anymore. It's a very dark green anyway. And then this blue, which is very pretty. So I think I'm going to do this one in blue and green. You also have a red, which is a little bit lighter red, so that you can use this as a red, or you can mix it with the white to make a little pink. Let's do the blue first. So I'm going to do a blue hat, and that's the part underneath the pom-pom. And I'm using my smaller brush because I'm edging now. I have to edge along the pom-pom, and I have to edge along the top of the hat. So I have to just take your time, do the top edge. You could go around and do the top edge all the way around first. Smooth it out. If your paint stays wet for any length of time after you go away from it, it means you're putting it on too heavy. So then go back with your brush and just pull it. If you pull it, it'll dry faster. All right, so now I did that whole top edge where the pom-pom is. Did that. Now I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to do this edge that meets the rim of the hat. Nice and smooth. Anything can be fixed in ceramics. If you go out of the lines, just make sure you let it dry before you try to touch it up. Don't try to put a color over the paint if it's still wet, because that'll mix the two colors together. It will not layer the colors. Okay. Now, since your snow is going to go on the trim of the hat, you can overlap up onto the blue just a little bit to make it look like it has a furry edge, so that edge doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, but there's, I have a blue hat, and I think I'm going to do a blue scarf too, so I'll go down and I'll start the scarf. Now, what I would do is do the middle of the scarf first, and then take your small brush to do your edging. It might be a little bit easier for you. I always use the bigger, flatter brush to keep my paint nice and smooth, so I'm doing just the middle of the scarf. I'm going to go all the way around and do the middle. Okay, so I'm not edging up against the white of the snowman or the white of the trim of the hat yet. I'm just doing the whole middle section. Back here I can do the edge with the flat part of the brush. And if you can't do that, just use your smaller brush. What I do is I put the paint down, and then I flatten my brush and kind of scoop it around, and I get a nice edge with that. But if you can't do that, like I said, go back to the smaller brush. I'll do as much as I can with this brush, and then I'm going to go to the little brush, so it's a little bit neater. Okay, I put that in the water, swish it around. I don't even leave my brushes laying in water for any length of time, because the water gets up into the ferrules, and that's what makes your your handles of your brushes peel if that water absorbs into the wood. So I do that until I can wash it in the sink later on. And now I'll probably be using it again anyway. So, all right, so now I took the small brush and do my edging with the small brush. Now, as far as the eyes and the mouth go, you can use a ultra fine point black Sharpie, a marker, to do them, or especially the mouth. The mouth, you know, it's very hard to do with a brush if you're not used to, you know, working on fine lines with a brush. You can use a Sharpie, or with the back end of your brush, you could do two blue eyes and not black. You could do that also. Okay, so now that top edge is done. Now I'm going to turn him upside down and to do the bottom area where I didn't get close. Okay, so I do it in 2 stages. It's a nice blue, and it covers very well too. The buttons, you could do a combination of whatever colors you have on the hat and the scarf. So do like, you could do the whole thing in one color and then go back and do the little top section. I'll show you. I'll do it for you also. Because it's a lot harder just to do that circle around the button. But if you do the whole button and then go back and put that little circle in the middle on top of it when it dries, I think that's a little easier to do. Okay. Again, make sure your paints are smooth before you go away from them. Edging takes a long time. Lots of times when I do pieces, I like to base coat in one color, but with the snowman, it's a little more difficult to do that. And it would take a lot longer to do also. I mean, you could base coat him in a very light blue or a gray, and then dry brush the white over it, but that takes a lot longer. It does give you a different look. It gives you some color in the crevices, which look really nice. But since I'm teaching this class for children, I don't think it's something that they'd be able to do as easily. So if you just take your time with this, you'll be fine. And like I said, if you go out of the lines, you let it dry before you go over it again. And don't forget, now I did the whole scarf, and I want to do the fringe. And then we could even put a little bit of snow on the fringe later. I didn't do it on this, but we can. Okay. I'll do the fringe. Yeah, this is a lot more time consuming than when something is base coated and dry brushed or pounced color on top of it. But it looks just as good. There's so many different ways you can do things, and everybody has different ways of teaching. Okay, I'm almost done. Whoops. Let's go around here. Okay, I have that done. And I think I'm going to do the buttons in a different color, not the blue. So now again, I'm going to swish my brush in the water, and I'm going to do the green as my second color. Okay, and I'm going to do that on the pom-pom and on the gloves. All right, so I'm going to use my little brush again. I swished it out in the water, either one, and paint this on the pom-pom. And I'm doing the edging. Oh, I must have gotten it on my fingers. See, now I got a little bit of paint on there. And sometimes I just take a little saliva and smush it around. It takes the brunt of the color off, and then it'll be easier to touch it up with the white, rather than try to touch up the color in full strength. I'm going to put the white over it. I'll probably have to do it a second time too. But you have to watch if you get it on your hands. I do that a lot. I get it on my hands, and I always have to go back and touch up. Okay, let's go back to the pom-pom. See, I must be putting my fingers in the blue that's still wet. So take your time, you know, do your blue or do your other color that you're doing, let it dry. Make sure it's dry before you start handling it and getting color all over the snowman's body. Don't do what I did. Okay. The blue and the green are going to look very nice together. And I'll show you how to do dots and designs. All right, I'm going to do the green on the gloves. Very gently, so you don't get it all over everything. And again, I'm going to put the snow on the cuffs, so if a little bit gets up onto the green, it'll be okay. Okay, I've got one glove done. I'm going to do the other glove. And don't try to rush and keep up with me. Just pause the video and you can always, you know, go back and look again and stop it whenever you want and take your time doing the piece. I don't know where to grab it. We'll grab it around here right now. That's why it's important to make sure your colors are dry. Okay, nice and smooth. Okay, so now I have those two areas done, and I'm going to do a green button. I'm going to use the brush that you have to do that. So now what I was saying is do the whole button in the one color first. It's a lot easier than trying to stay away from the middle part. I'll let that dry. So I even just got a little bit on his body. Pull it off with a brush and a little bit of water, and it came right off if I got it right away. I put a little dot of green on his body, and I took up my other brush that was clean with a little bit of water in it and pulled it out, and it came off. As long as it was wet, I got it off right away. All right, so there's that one button, and I'll do this button. You have to turn it all around in all different directions to get the button covered where it should be. So again, now I just got it on the scarf, so I'm going to use just a little bit of water and take it off, and it comes off right away. Okay, you could be a little neater. I'm going to not get too crazy with this right now, but you should be neat when you do it. Okay, so I have the two buttons done. Now when those buttons dry, I'm going to take the blue and put it in the center of the buttons. You could also do the red. You have red, you could put another color on there. I see a spot on my glove that I missed. I'm going to go back and touch that up. Okay, now if you want to use the marker, you don't have to do the eyes now, but I'm going to show you, I'm going to use the back, the handle. See the handle of the brush? I put a little bit of the blue in the handle of the brush and just very gently dot each eye. See that? With the handle of the brush, it makes dots, and that's how these dots are done also. I'll show you how to do those next. Maybe we should put the snow. Okay, so now you have time to let this dry. If you do the dots first, you're going to have to let them dry before you can go back and do the snow. Because the dots, because you're putting it on with the back end of the brush, they stay wet for a very long time, so don't rush it. And if you do the snow, that also stays wet for a while, so then you'd have to wait to do the dots. I'm going to try to do both that I can show you. May not be easy, but I'm going to try to do it. Okay, let's see. All right, so now you take the snow. Now the snow you scoop up. You never do that with your paint, but with the snow you can. And just lay it on the piece like so. I just scooped, and then just pounce it around. Go up a little bit onto the blue on the top. It's snow, so it doesn't matter. And it doesn't, it's called snow, but I'm doing it to look like fur trim on the hat. Okay, so again, scoop up, go away from what you just did, lay it down, and pounce it around. So again, I'm just doing the top, go all the way around and do the top, and then turn him upside down and try to get close to the face. Do it in 2 sections. Do the top part edging and then do the part next to the face, the edging. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way around. I just want you to get the idea of what you have to do. Now, look how cute that looks. All right, now you're going to do the same thing. You might need the little smaller brush to do that, but you're going to do the same thing on the cuffs. You need a little smaller brush to do that. But I was telling you before, you can also put a little bit on the scarf, on the edge of the scarf. Like, it doesn't have to be perfectly uniform. It could just be a little uneven on there. And the same thing like I did on the top of that. Scoop it up and just pounce a little bit on there. And that could look like snow, whereas this we want to look like fur. This we want to look like snow. Okay, so we have that on there. Now, the snow should really be washed out of your brush right away when you're finished with it, because it's clumpy and it'll ruin the hairs of the brush. So I'm getting it in the water right away. See, I pretty much got it out of my brush. Okay, but I will still take it to the sink and wash it with soap and water when I'm finished. All right, so now we just have designs to do. Oh, the little cheeks. The little cheeks, you have red and you have white. So what you do with the cheeks is you put a little white in your brush first. You always add the dark color to the light color to make a tint. Okay, so you want to make a tint. So we're going to pick up a little bit of white, just a very little, and then I'm going to pick up just a little drop of red in my brush. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm going to work it on the paper towel together until I like the color. And see the pink that I got there? And then I'm just going to pounce it on his cheeks, like so. I'm doing this upside down, so it might not be as neat as yours. Okay? The 2 little dots of pink on there. And you can make them bigger. This one's a little bigger. This one's a little smaller. This is the same size snowman. He just looks bigger when I get him closer to the screen, I guess. Okay, wash your brush out. And then we'll do some designs. And the designs are done with the back end of the brush. Now you have 2 different brushes and they both have different size handles. So you use whatever you would like to use. So I am going to put, let's see. You also have purple, which is cool. Let's do the center of the buttons first. I think we're going to do the center of the buttons in the red. Let's be a little daring with him. We'll do them in the red. We'll do some designs in the red. Make it pop. See? Doesn't that make that pop? Those buttons. And I think I'll do red designs on the hat and the scarf. Now I'm going to do 3-dot designs like I have here. What I mean is 3 dots together. See how close they are in the green? That green's very dark. You have a brighter green. So you could use whatever color you want. Do 3 little dots together. And then you can go back in later with another color and do a bigger dot in between them. But you see how far apart my dots are? Don't have them close on top of each other. Then it starts to look like a dotted Swiss, I don't know if you would know what that is. It's like material, this material that's called dotted Swiss, and it's just got dots all over the place. So I'm going to do dots, see if I can turn it around and do it while you're watching. Okay, so it's almost like a triangle. You do 1, you do 2, and you do 3. And it's like a little triangle. Okay, and then far away from it. Now I dip again because every time you do a dot, you run out of paint in the handle of the brush. So I do 2 dots, and then I go back and I do a 3rd. Okay, so I'm staggering them, 1 up here, 1 down here, 1 up here, 1 down here. Okay, I'm not going to go around and do the whole piece. I'm just going to give you an idea of what to do on there. Then I'm going to go back with the white, or you could do the green, or you could do, maybe not the white. Maybe we'll do the green. Okay, so I'll go through the green, and I'm going to put a big, does the green show that much? No, it doesn't really. So let's not do the green on the blue. See, now you have to figure out what colors look good on the colors that you chose to do on the piece. I'm taking that off because I didn't like it. So I could stick to the red, or I think the white would probably be the best to stand out on the blue. See how the white dots stand out on the red there? I like the way the white stands out. So I'll go back to the white. And I'm using a brush that has a little bigger handle, which is this one here. And I'm going to do a white dot on there. See how much bigger that dot is? And I dip every time, every time. Now look at the difference in the size of the dots. If it's not big enough, I go back and put a little bit more on it. Okay, doesn't that look cool? Now up here you could do the little 3 dot again, and you could do the big white dot also. The gloves, you could put some little stitches going around the gloves, and the way you would do that, I'm going to do them in the white also. So I'm just going to do a little lines. See what I did on the glove? Little stitches, just kind of outlining the glove. It's just like a little dash. Okay, and I just outlined the glove. I didn't do it in the back, just on that little front area, just to do a little outline. I'll do the other one. Looks really cute. Let's do this one. So in the middle of his thumb I start, and then I do it where you could see the front of the glove, his little mittens. And I dip a little bit often so that the white is sharp, otherwise it gets like a faded look to it. So, let's see. Do this one here. Okay, there we go. And there's your snowman. Okay, now you can seal this with a paint-on sealer, which is a liquid in a jar. It comes in a small jar usually, and it's clear, and they have it in matte or gloss. I think Amazon has it. Michael's probably has it too. And you paint that on, and you seal your piece entirely. So there's your snowman. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking my class, and I hope to see you again soon. Stay safe.